I started spending more time with my stepfather instead of my father. He got angry and stopped paying alimony and disappeared from my life. Am I a jerk because of this? Before starting this exciting story, I will ask you to dial 1,000 subscribers on my channel. I love you very much, so let's get started. When I was younger, I had a very close relationship with my dad. My parents divorced when I was an infant, but I spent weekdays with my mom and weekends with my dad. My dad and I were like best friends, and we had a simple routine every weekend. We would rent 5 red box movies to watch over the weekend, go fishing, play soccer, and bike to a little secret playground near the zoo. Another aspect of my life was that my dad frequently had new girlfriends, none of whom lasted more than 2 weeks. The only exception was a woman I really liked who stayed with him for 2 years, but she left when I was 10. My relationship with my dad remained strong until I was 12, when he met his now wife. She had 2 children, one older and one younger than me. They moved into my dad's apartment after only 2 weeks. My already small room was made even smaller as my tiny mattress and 3 small plastic drawers were shoved into a corner to make space for the daughter's bunk bed and dresser. Eventually, my bed was moved into a closet when I wasn't visiting, and they often forgot to take it out when I came over. When my dad moved into a bigger house, the older sister got her own room while I had to share one with the younger sister every weekend. The 3 small drawers I originally had were reduced to just 1 because the younger sister wanted the other 2 for her toys. Gradually, I started visiting my dad less and less. Things took a turn for the worse when my dad got his girlfriend pregnant after 1 year. They got married, and I didn't find out until a month later because he didn't tell me. I also didn't know about the birth of my baby half-sister until weeks after she came home from the hospital. To please his new family, he started spoiling them and stopped paying child support for me and my mom. His wife is a jobless gold digger who only cooks, cleans, and shops. Her older daughter is having her college education paid for by my dad, and the younger daughter epitomizes a 10-year-old Sephora kid. As for my half-sister, she is still a toddler but is clearly spoiled and hates hearing the word no. The routine I once cherished with my dad is now gone. On the other hand, my stepdad has been with my mom since I was 5. Apparently, though I don't remember it, I once called him Dad, which led my biological dad to tell me that I shouldn't love that man like a dad because he's not really my father. Apparently that's why I started acting like I hated my stepdad. I never understood why I felt that way about him, since he had never been anything but good to me. In the last few years, I've felt much closer to him, and he feels like the dad that my birth father should try to be. Over time, my relationship with my dad has changed significantly. He now rants to me about his political beliefs and conspiracy theories about aliens and other bizarre topics. He also brags incessantly about his new business and his new family. Whenever I try to share anything with him, he gets annoyed and shuts me up before continuing with his stories. It's as if he now sees me as a buddy rather than his daughter. During these last few years, I also learned the real reason my parents divorced. It wasn't because they weren't right for each other. It was because my father cheated on my mom while visiting his family in Canada. This revelation has profoundly impacted how I view him. I am now 15. And I have become a completely different person than the one my birth dad remembers. I no longer love the beach or soccer. Instead, I have developed a passion for music, reading, and writing. Since 2022, I have written and published 2 books, and am currently working on the 3rd in my series. My stepdad supports my dreams wholeheartedly. He loves me so much that he brags about me to friends and family and calls me his daughter. My stepdad has a biological daughter whom I love like a real sister, though she lives up north with her boyfriend, so I don't see her often. Nevertheless, I love them more than I love my birth dad and half-sister, to whom I'm actually related. My dad blames me for never calling him, but given how he's treated me lately, I don't feel like I owe it to him. I also go months without visiting him because I no longer feel comfortable at his house. The bed I sleep on there is literally considered the guest bed. In my birth dad's house, I am a guest. Because of all this, I resent my dad deeply. I haven't told anyone about these feelings, so no one is calling me a jerk. However, I'm left wondering if I am one because my dad is in love with his new family, and I'm questioning whether it's wrong for me not to be happy for him. Am I the jerk? Update 1. Since my initial post, I've visited my dad's house only once. and it's clear that I am nothing more than an uncomfortable guest there. Whenever I go a few months without visiting, my dad tries to act innocent and calls me on Fridays to ask when he should pick me up. I never answer because he always calls when I'm in class or busy studying, so he ends up calling my mom. He never asks me in advance, so I usually have plans on weekends with my cousins, friends, or to work on my writing. I'm still working on my third book, which requires a lot of focus that I can't get at his house. Actually, I'm just going to call him Eric. He hasn't been much of a dad figure to me compared to my stepdad. It was my mom who decided I would go over to his house. Despite the fact that Eric hasn't paid child support in over 2 years and I hate going to his house, my mom insists that I visit occasionally to keep him from getting the court involved. She confuses me by sometimes calling him a deadbeat, but also saying he's my loving dad who deserves my respect. Under the circumstances, I'm fairly certain nothing would change since I rarely visit him, and he doesn't pay child support anyway. One Christmas, for instance, he bought a bunch of new gifts for his family and wrapped them up nicely. But weeks before Christmas, when I was visiting, he drove to Walmart for his wife to do groceries and handed me $200 saying, "Merry Christmas, buy yourself something and the rest can be child support or whatever." I bought 2 books, but the remaining money was nowhere near the amount he owed in child support. I've told my mom I'd be happier if he lost custody of me and my stepdad adopted me. But she thinks that's too extreme and says, "He's still your dad. He deserves your respect and love." Regarding the weekend I visited him, from the minute Eric picked me up, all he talked about was his new family. He mentioned the older sister and her boyfriend, the younger sister and her shopping habits, and my half-sister who can now talk a little bit. I stayed silent the whole ride until he asked me a question about school. When I answered, he got frustrated and launched into a conspiracy theory rant. I tuned him out for the rest of the drive. The rest of the weekend wasn't any better. The older sister did what she always does when I visit. She locked herself in her room and only came out when I left the house or was in the bathroom to avoid talking to me. The younger sister had a friend over, and her friend had her stuff tossed on my bed and was sitting on it because it's the bed she sleeps in during sleepovers. Eric's wife made little effort to conceal her discomfort with my visits. On multiple occasions, she has been visibly surprised to see me because Eric didn't inform her beforehand, likely to avoid any objections from her. Most of the weekend was spent with Eric taking me and my half-sister to a playground so she could play with her friends. I tried to read on a bench, but my peace was frequently interrupted, as Eric would leave and instruct me to keep an eye on my half-sister, who is quite unruly and demanding. I am not a babysitter, and while I am good with kids, it doesn't mean I enjoy sacrificing my own time to look after them, especially when they are not my responsibility. Consequently, I spent 2 days in a state of either chaos or discomfort. After this experience, I had a conversation with my mom about my reluctance to visit Eric's house anymore. She agreed and assured me that she wouldn't force me to go again, but since she's made similar promises before, I'm skeptical. I don't have anyone to really confide in about this situation, and it's causing me significant stress. I can't recall ever seeing my dad as happy as he is now, and part of me feels like I should be happy for him. However, I'm conflicted and unsure about what to do. Any advice on how to handle this would be greatly appreciated. So far, everyone who has commented on my previous post has said that I'm not the jerk and that Eric isn't behaving like a proper dad. Yet, he still reaches out occasionally and calls me his baby girl, saying he loves me. Hearing this almost brings me to tears because it reminds me of how our relationship used to be. Am I overthinking or overreacting? What should I do? Am I the jerk here because I'm not happy for my dad? Update 2. Hello, everyone. It's only been a couple of days since my last post. Since then, I have taken the advice most of you have given me and talked to my mom about how I don't want to keep being forced by her to visit Eric, my sperm donor, as most of you referred to him. Long story short, I'm not 100% sure she won't continue to send me over to Eric's house, but she did end up sending him long texts, chewing him out for not treating me right and telling him to step up and pay his child support. He didn't answer her, though, so I followed some other advice and wrote him a long text myself that detailed how I felt about his treatment of me over the last few years. The thing is, as soon as I sent that text, he called me to yell at me and called me spoiled and overdramatic. He said it's my fault we don't have a relationship since I never visit or talk to him anymore, and because I mentioned the unpaid child support, he said that I was only reaching out to him for money. I nearly cried during that phone call and ended up just hanging up on him. He sent some angry texts to my mother as well, but later that day, he left a voicemail on my phone saying, "Money is kind of tight for me right now. I'm completely broke. You know I love you, right?" The thing is that I know that's a lie because I'm always seeing my younger stepsister make TikTok videos showing off the Sephora and other expensive crap he buys her all the time. I think I'm done trying. Some of you suggested asking my stepdad for help. I wish I could, but when I asked my mom again if he could adopt me, she said something that absolutely crushed me. Apparently, my stepdad himself said he doesn't feel like he should adopt me. My stepdad is a very kind and sympathetic man, but he's also extremely non-confrontational and thinks it would be like a slap in the face to Eric if he adopted me. Also, because I noticed some confusion about this in the comments on my last update, the reason my parents divorced was because Eric cheated, but it wasn't with his current wife. My parents split up when I was still basically an infant. Eric lived in Canada at the time, where he jumped from girlfriend to girlfriend before eventually moving down here and continuing the same pattern. When I was 12, he met and impregnated his wife, Alejandra, and married her without telling me until a month after their courthouse wedding. Some of you asked how old I am. I am 15. It feels ridiculous that I have this stress on me at my age, and I can't really talk to anyone about it. I can't talk to my stepdad because he's always working, and I'm only ever with him when my mom is there too. I don't like talking to her because she always tells me that I'm too young to really feel how I feel. The last time I tried to discuss my mental health with my mom, I asked her if I could start going to therapy. She said that therapists are dumb and that I can just talk to her or pray to God if anything is wrong. I'm not super religious, and talking to her about anything serious makes me deeply uncomfortable. It's not that I don't love her, she is my mom after all, but she's pretty intense and intimidating. My dad has not reached out to me again since his voicemail. Frankly, I don't want to even think about him for a long while now. If he suddenly realizes how badly he screwed up with me and apologizes, then maybe I'll try to rebuild our relationship. As for my stepdad, he may not want to adopt me, but he still calls me his daughter, never just his stepdaughter, and I truly feel loved by him. I love his parents like they're my own grandparents, and his whole family is so warm and loving. I might make another update if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just going to focus on school and my books. Maybe now that I understand that Eric really doesn't care that much about me anymore, I can finally focus on finishing my third book. I dedicated my first book to him, and I honestly don't regret it. I dedicated that book to the dad he used to be. It's not like he'll ever read that book since he doesn't think it's smart that I want to be a writer. But I don't care. I'm done. Okay, friends, let's move on to another interesting story. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I really want 1,000 subscribers. Aita for not defending my brother. When my boyfriend criticized him, I'm in a really tough spot and could use some perspective. I, 28F, have been dating my boyfriend, Alex, 31M, for about a year now. He's been wonderful and supportive, especially through some difficult times. One of those difficult times involves my relationship with my older brother, Tom, 33M. Tom and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, he was the golden child, and I often felt like the family doormat. He would tease me mercilessly, make fun of my interests, and generally treat me like I was beneath him. Our parents rarely intervened, often brushing it off as typical sibling behavior, or even enabling it by saying things like, "Boys will be boys," or "He's just joking, don't be so sensitive." This dynamic continued into adulthood. Tom still makes condescending comments, dismisses my achievements, and often expects me to drop everything to help him out, all without any gratitude or reciprocation. I've tried to talk to him about it before, but he just laughs it off or accuses me of overreacting. For context, I work at a museum in our city, a job I'm really passionate about, but Tom often belittles. He thinks it's a waste of time and constantly tells me I could do something more useful with my life. Last weekend, Alex and I were at a family gathering. Tom was in rare form, belittling me in front of everyone about my job. I was trying to brush it off as usual, but Alex wasn't having it. He stepped in and told Tom to stop treating me like a doormat and to start respecting me as an equal. Things escalated quickly. Tom got defensive and the situation turned into a heated argument. Alex called Tom out on all the times he's treated me poorly and accused him of being a bully. Tom fired back, saying Alex didn't know what he was talking about and should mind his own business. Our parents tried to defuse the situation, but ended up taking Tom's side, saying Alex was overstepping and causing unnecessary drama. Now Tom is furious with me. He says I should have stuck up for him and defended him against Alex. He claims that by not doing so, I've betrayed our family and humiliated him in front of everyone. My parents are also disappointed, feeling like I should have controlled the situation better. Alex feels bad that things got so heated but stands by his actions, saying someone needed to finally call Tom out on his behavior. I'm torn. On one hand, I appreciate Alex standing up for me, but on the other hand, I feel guilty for not defending my brother in that moment. ETA, I wanted to add that part of the reason I didn't defend Alex more strongly is because whenever I did try to say something in his defense, my parents would just bulldoze over me. Every time I attempted to speak, they'd yell over me, which brought back all the feelings of clamming up like I did when I was younger. It made me freeze up and just stand there, especially since it seemed to only make Tom even angrier. I felt trapped, not knowing how to diffuse the tension as it got worse and worse. I'm working on it, but it's not easy, especially in situations like this. By the end of the entire ordeal, I was just standing there crying, and Alex took me to our car to go home. Since last weekend, I've been fielding phone calls from my parents and brother. I know I'm not responding to people, but I just posted this on a whim and then put it away. ETA 2. Hi all, I just woke up to more comments. I'm writing this edit to let you know that I'm going to visit my Aunt Amy tonight to discuss what happened. She hosted the get-together and has always been someone I can turn to for help or advice when I need it. She and my uncle usually step in to diffuse these situations when they're around, but they were both in the kitchen when this incident occurred. Aunt Amy understands the family dynamics better than anyone, so I'm hoping she can provide me with some clarity. Also, please stop DMing me suggesting that Alex should leave me. Alex has been incredibly supportive, and we're handling this together. I appreciate everyone's concern and understand that people may not like that I froze, but that's what happened. I love Alex, and he's been amazing for my self-confidence, but I still struggle with it around my parents and brother. Update. I ended up talking to my Aunt Amy and Uncle Joe last night when I went over for dinner, as I mentioned. They have always been a safe haven for me, and it was really comforting to hear their perspective. Amy and Joe told me that my parents have always been wrong in how they treated me, and that the way they let Tom belittle me is not okay. They said that whenever they tried to stand up for me, my parents would not let them see me and Tom. One instance they brought up really hit home for me. I remember not getting to see Aunt Amy and Uncle Joe for a few months after my mom and Amy got into an argument. This happened after Tom ruined some of my favorite books, and Aunt Amy tried to defend me. She told my mom that it wasn't fair for Tom to face no consequences and that I deserved better. My mom got so furious at Amy's interference that she decided to cut off contact for a while. I think I was 7. I didn't fully understand why I suddenly couldn't visit them anymore, but I remember being upset and feeling even more isolated. Joe explained that this is why they always tried to take me on outings whenever they could. It was their way of giving me a break from the environment at home. It just seemed to hit me all at once while we were talking. They're the ones who took me to the zoo, a movie, or just a walk in the park. All my happy memories as a kid were never with my parents. Honestly, they're who I think of when I think of what a parent should be. After our talk, I've decided to go no contact with my parents and Tom for the time being. I need to focus on what I want and what's good for me. My aunt and uncle also promised they'd run interference for me so I don't have to deal with them. Also, Alex proposed to me yesterday morning. I honestly didn't expect it, but I'm so happy. We're going to be visiting his family over the long weekend to celebrate, and my aunt and uncle are going to go with us. I don't know what's going to come of cutting my parents and brother out, but I'm glad I'm doing it. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.